Hi, I'm Keionna Thomas, Program Coordinator for BRAID with the EcoWomanist Institute Southeast, and this is BRAIDEd. Welcome back to BRAIDEd. I'm your host, Keionna Thomas, Program Coordinator for BRAID with the EcoWomanist Institute Southeast. We're closing out Season 1 today, and we're doing it by going back to the very beginning. Before there was a cohort, before there was a launch, there was a vision. And today's episode is about what it looks like to take someone's vision and build it into something the world can actually see. This season has taken us from the history of Black land loss, to the policy fight, to the people doing the work on the ground, and that work is far from over. Before we get into today's conversation, here's what's happening in the BRAID world right now. Our cohort is 6 months in. We've had our first in-person convening where we've kicked off an educational learning garden with our group of 10 Black women farmers handling the planning, the planting, and the maintenance. We've had 5 subject matter experts come in and share their wisdom, and not to mention the amount of knowledge shared throughout the cohort themselves. Seeing the relationships and bonds that have already been built is truly inspiring, and we're only at the beginning. Our guest today is a multi-award-winning international design educator, strategist, and creative who has spent her career using visual communication to spark real change. She's the professor who led the SCADpro project that shaped how the world sees BRAID today, its visual identity, its brand language, and the story it tells at first glance. And she has been cheering on this work ever since. Please welcome Professor Gauri Misra-Deshpande. Professor Gauri, you've built a career around design with purpose. Fashion, advertising, branding, digital. Can you tell us a little bit about your path and how you ended up in the classroom using design as a tool for social impact?
Hi, Keionna. I'd like to begin with saying thanks for having me on this episode. It means a lot. Well, public service was an inherent part of my childhood. I grew up watching my family caring for those with fewer means. My mom, she is the founding trustee of a nonprofit organization called BRAID in Mumbai, where they work with children with hearing impairment as young as 6 months. So I would often watch her teaching those classes, covering her mouth, and training their hearing. My father was also involved with spearheading multiple training campaigns for oil and gas safety at his company. And then my grandfather was in politics, but he was also the education minister of our state. So when I began working, after I trained in graphic design in Mumbai, I realized the connection between design and education pretty clearly, because then you would have to train people on understanding the importance of graphic design. I then went on to study further in the US, and I began to see the connection between design, advertising, and its impact on the process of affecting change, especially when I got into academics. So that's where we are with being in social impact, trained as a designer.
How did you first connect with Valerie, the founder and executive director of EcoWomanist Institute Southeast? What was the initial conversation like?
We were introduced in the hallway as I was wrapping up a class and leaving, and Valerie was getting a tour of the SCAD campus in Atlanta. And we just spoke for 5 minutes. And after that conversation, I knew I wanted to be a part of that vision that she had. I just connected with her energy. She was just so enthusiastic. There was so much clarity on what she wanted to do. I definitely wanted to be a part of that.
For those who don't know, can you explain what SCADpro is and how this project came to life through your students?
Sure. SCADpro is the innovation studio at the Savannah College of Art and Design. It exists to give students an exposure to a real-world experience, and it provides clients with an opportunity to work with talented creatives that we develop in the school. It's a win-win partnership which promotes the school's mission to prepare students for successful careers in art and design, And clients come in with a brief in mind and an idea of what they want to achieve. And depending on the type and scope of the project, the faculty with relevant experience are assigned the projects. We then recruit students based on the needs of the project, matching skills and ethos to complete that work successfully within a 10-week duration.
Awesome. Thank you for that. I'd love to jump into the design process behind BRAID. Walk us through the design thinking behind BRAID's identity. When Valerie came to you with the vision, what did that look like? And how did you and your students begin to translate it?
When Valerie shared her vision, there was a lot of clarity. She wanted to create a space for intergenerational knowledge sharing. She shared her own history and how she felt like she was in a space of empowerment, and now she wanted to pay it forward and help the next generation in their efforts to grow the landscape for Black female farmers. She spoke about many things that I related to, like generational knowledge, holding on to your roots, being the voice of support for those who need it. Having founded my own organization, Indian Culture Box, which shares many of those same ideas, it helped. It also helped that I'm not from the US and I didn't grow up in this culture. So I came to the project with fresh eyes, and the student group was also diverse. They came from 6 different countries with varying cultures. Some of them were from farming families from another country too. Also, Valerie's background in marketing helped because we shared the same language and we could push each other's thoughts when it came to developing and growing a brand to do this work. Our process involved speaking to farmers and food justice subject matter experts like Cheryl Durant. We visited different farmers' markets in different parts of the city, catering to different audiences. Our research included history of Black female farmers and legacy farmers, cohorts and social enterprises, marketing and designing strategies that were successful currently. And we also looked at curriculum that existed in the Southeast to support this extension to the agricultural education that students receive across universities. We also looked at other nonprofit organizations in this space and their successes, failures, what are they doing that's working, etc. Then we gathered insights on the farming and industrial agricultural practices, which was an area that was not very known to the entire group, including myself, and that truly opened our eyes as to why BRAID needed to exist. So based on all of this research, we landed on 6 value principles that were necessary and intertwined within developing and executing the incubator. So those were physical, intellectual, financial, ethical, moral, and spiritual. We then set up 3 different personas to personify the 3 generations that could be supported by the incubator. We also developed a strategy statement that allowed the team to all go forward in a singular direction. I love developing strategy statements because I think it keeps the team on the same page. So our strategy was get Black women farmers who feel overlooked, overwhelmed, and under-resourced to join and build a community of womanist cultivators by providing them an uplifting and supportive ecosystem, because the incubator exists to empower Black women farmers and help them flourish despite the barriers within the agricultural system.
One of the many parts of the design process are the colors, and you've mentioned many times that the colors carry a lot of meaning. Can you break that down for our listeners? What do those choices represent, and why did they matter?
So first we went through a long process developing name options based on the strategy that I shared with you. But I finally needed to remind the team that the core idea was so strong and we needed to go back to the beginning. And that was how seeds were woven into braids by those on the slave ships to bring with them their food and culture. Hence, BRAID was the simplest and most direct name of everything that we had developed. And we defined it as an acronym which related to the 6 pillars of the incubator. So this is how BRAID was born. Black Restorative Agricultural Incubation and Development. We then developed a logo, which was primarily a type-based logo, but we also created a symbol, which was the bee, which looks like a braid with seeds around it. And then the symbol had the 3 colors because we wanted to convey the idea of the 3 generations within the symbol. We wanted this to become an intrinsic part of the story because those were the 3 generations that we were wanting to help with the incubator. So the yellow top of the braid represents the sun, new beginnings, and bright-eyed young Black women looking to get into agriculture. The green represents growing within agriculture and Black women establishing themselves in the landscape. And the purple finally represents the soil and the roots of legacy farmers, paving the way for Black women to join the farming industry.
After going through this process, you staged an entire farmers market for the final presentation. Students in aprons, braid sweatshirts, value-added products with packaging. Talk about that decision. What were you trying to help Valerie and potential partners actually feel?
Keionna, as a designer, you always want your client to see the full potential of their business or their organization and how your communication design decisions can bring that to life. So the farmers market was an attempt to do just that. Valerie, when in our multiple meetings while going through this process, had spoken about her vision of the land giving opportunity to new farmers to be part of a community, and the result of it would be value-added products that they could sell based on everything that they were collectively growing. So the farmers market had items that were branded with the BRAID logo. We had fresh produce. We had banners and handouts and students standing in aprons, giving life or a physical presence to what Valerie's vision had been. And it was pretty cool to watch her enter into the presentation space and see the farmers market. And if any time that I've seen Valerie at a loss of words, it was them.
What did this project mean to your students? You mentioned a student from Belarus whose family were potato farmers, and someone else from China sharing their story. What happened in that room when they started connecting their own backgrounds to this work?
Whenever I lead a team, I emphasize a lot on team members getting to know each other really well. I make students go through different techniques and exercises for team building because it just helps the design process become much stronger. The communication becomes a lot more clear, and critiques become about the work and not about ego boosting or ego busting. During one of our conversations, when students began to learn about the history of Black farmers in the U.S., their eyes opened to the reality of agriculture here. International students, especially on the team, felt comfortable enough to open up about their own personal journeys and their experiences with their families in farming and agriculture, and quickly began to draw comparisons. And this just helped them become so much more passionate about the potential that the incubator held, and it definitely affected their work ethos in a positive way.
The BRAID brand then went on to win a Mosaic ADDY Award. What did that recognition mean to you, and what did it mean for BRAID's visibility?
So the ADDY Awards are the national body for advertising across the U.S. You have regional or local awards. Winners go on to compete in the regional awards. And then you go on, if you win in the regionals, you go on to win a national award. So we did submit the BRAID Identity Design Project to the ADDYs, and they won at the local and regional level. The Mosaic ADDY was a big surprise because that work was not submitted for that particular category because it's a category for impact work. It was selected by the ADDY judges to be passed on to the national awards in that category. So that winning a national ADDY for the impact work project meant a lot because it got seen by so many more people, and eventually that would only help the incubator. So having grown up in the nonprofit space, I realized the value of free publicity, because when you get funds, you put them towards the actual work and not towards bragging opportunities. So the National Mosaic Award for the work we did for BRAID was a pretty big deal.
Now that you can see the cohort in motion, the women, the farms, the convening, what does it feel like to watch something you help visualize actually become real?
It feels gratifying. It means that what we experienced and learned through the process with Valerie meant something, and it means that it's meeting the objectives and then some. As a designer and as a person who wants her skills to make a difference, what more can I want? It reminds me of a Bessie Stanley poem quote, "To leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition, to know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived, this is to have succeeded." Valerie is working hard at succeeding with BRAID, and I'm happy to have collaborated with her to do this important work. But Keionna, we still have a lot more to do.
You are definitely right about that. So looking forward, you've mentioned the idea of building a kind of knowledge database from all of this work. The stories, the expertise, the generational wisdom these farmers carry. What do you see as the potential there?
There's so much potential. I see a crystal clear opportunity for developing a knowledge repository created and used in the future for promoting BRAID's mission, full of honest, human, and authentic stories.
And finally, what would you want someone hearing this for the first time? Someone who maybe doesn't know what BRAID is just yet. What would you want them to take away from what you've built with Miss Valerie?
I want them to know that there is hope and that they can become a part of the change. So as a farmer, please join the movement. And as a designer, know that you can choose the stories you want to tell.
Thank you so much, Professor Gauri, not only for your time with me today, but all of the work that you've put into BRAID since before we even brought the women in. We really appreciate everything you've done and everything you continue to do, and are really excited to see this program grow more.
Thank you, Keionna, for this opportunity. It has been my absolute pleasure and honor to have been part of this process. I hope to continue working with Valerie and with BRAID.
Let's hear from Ms. Valerie Hill Rawls, Executive Director of EcoWomanist Institute Southeast.
Wow, this is my reflection. BRAID as an award-winning brand and what comes next. BRAID's Mosaic ADDY recognition was a holy surprise. It wasn't even submitted for that category. Judges chose to elevate it, pass it forward, and ultimately awarded a National Silver ADDY for impact work. That detail matters to me because it confirms something I believed from the beginning. BRAID is not branding for branding's sake. It's a mission made visible. Professor Gauri's reflection named the deeper meaning of BRAID's moment. The award wasn't simply a trophy. It was expanded visibility for a movement that is often underfunded and underestimated. The ADDY recognition widened the circle of who would see BRAID, and that widened circle can become partners, funders, collaborators, and future cohort members. What moves me even more is that the cohort is now in motion. Watching the women farmers and the convening become real is a reminder that the design process wasn't abstract. It was a form of preparation. Professor Gauri described it as gratifying. The work we experienced and learned together is meeting the objectives, and then some. That's an "and then some." It is a part that I hold close. It tells me that BRAID is not only functioning, it's alive. Her invocation of Bessie Stanley's words landed like a blessing over the program to leave the world in a better place by having healthier children, a garden patch, or redeemed social conditions, and to know even one life has breathed easier because we've lived. That is the kind of success BRAID is built for. I received her affirmation with humility and resolve. Yes, I am hardworking and succeeding with BRAID, and the work is bigger than me. We still have a lot more to do. Looking forward, I'm especially energized by the knowledge database vision, a repository of stories, expertise, and generational wisdom carried by Black women farmers and land stewards. The potential is crystal clear. This becomes an evergreen resource that promotes BRAID's mission through honest, human, authentic stories. Not extractive, not performative. A living archive that supports learning, recruitment, and cultural change. And if someone is hearing BRAIDEd for the first time, I want the takeaway to be simple and to be true. There is hope, and you can be a part of the change. If you're a farmer, join the movement. If you're a designer, communicator, or builder, choose the stories you want to tell and use your skills to make a difference. In closing, to every subject matter expert who joined us in Season 1 of BRAIDEd, thank you. Thank you for trusting us with your stories, your wisdom, and your lived experiences, and for helping us to widen what people understand about Black women's land stewardship, leadership, and liberation. To our listeners, stay with us. Season 2 is on the way. Deeper conversations, more tools, and more voices shaping what's next. So keep listening, keep sharing, and keep your hands and hearts ready. We're just getting started. BRAID's recognition is not a destination. It's a signal. The work is worthy. The story is resonant. And the women are building. Now our next step is to convert visibility into infrastructure, a stronger cohort pathway, a protected knowledge repository, and a signature program platform that helps Black women land stewards breathe easier and lead us all towards a redeemable social condition.
That's a wrap on Season 1 of BRAIDEd. We opened the season with history, where Black land ownership began, what was taken, and why reclaiming it matters. And we're closing it here, with a conversation about vision, what it takes to look at something that does not exist yet and build it anyway. Thank you to every guest who brought their knowledge, stories, and truth to the mic this season. Thank you to the BRAID cohort of 10 extraordinary Black women farmers across the Southeast doing the real work every single day. And thank you for listening. Keep up with everything EWISE on our website, ewise.org, and social media at EWI Southeast. And of course, more BRAIDEd episodes will be coming this fall, and we can't wait to share with you all what we've been working on. There's a lot more coming. I'm Keionna Thomas, and this has been BRAIDEd.